This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody? Time for your Raw review here on this 4th day of March 2025. The Elimination Chamber fallout. Pretty damn significant last night here in Buffalo, New York, and highlighted, I think, by Punk's promo. We'll talk about that in just a moment, which was one for the year. Was it one for the ages? That remains to be seen, but certainly one of the best of the year so far, and that'll, I think, manifest itself in something happening at WrestleMania for Punk in a big way, and eventually when he cashes in that favor, I think we'll see things really fall into place for Punk, and maybe he'll get his main event, but I don't know if it's going to be this year. I really don't. Still a lot of puzzle pieces to fall in for him and for others, but we saw something crazy happen on Raw. We saw something crazy, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, thank you everybody for joining us here. If you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE Podcast is the place to go, including an exclusive podcast that's done every week for only those of you on the NXT Plus and above. And that is the After Dark show, an adults-only version of the show hosted by Luis, who just does an excellent job. He's better than I am. I really mean that. So check him out, only at Patreon and Apple Podcasts as well. All right, everybody. So, what's the crazy thing? Rhea Ripley is no longer women's champion. Yeah, let me repeat that. Rhea Ripley is no longer your world champion for the women. A 54-day reign, I think it was. She's no longer your champion. I didn't see that coming. I'm sure many of you didn't either. Certainly an unexpected turn this close to WrestleMania for arguably the face of the women's division in Rhea Ripley, who's done just a stellar job over the last 18 months, carrying the division, not all the time, but she has been, and when you think of the women's division, she is one of the first people that comes to mind. And she's done an insanely good job with the Judgment Day, after the Judgment Day, with Dom, with Liv, and you're thinking, okay, she captures the championship back from Liv, perfect. Yeah, she's going to WrestleMania as champion. Well, hold on, no. And while I really do not want Iyo Sky versus Bianca Belair for the women's championship at WrestleMania, and I really don't. If this becomes a triple threat, I understand what's happening here. I would see that as the only place to go, because if Rhea Ripley is not involved in the women's championship, what is she doing at WrestleMania? Nothing. You can't have Rhea Ripley not do anything, and specifically one of your biggest stars not involved in a championship match. I think that is just not in the cards. I think Rhea Ripley is going to be challenging for the championship. I really wish it was going to be Rhea versus Bianca. Looked like that's what we're going to get, especially after Elimination Chamber when they all three of them stood there, and I even said that Iyo was just there because she had a championship match on Monday that I said there's no chance she's going to win. Well, here it is, and she's winning. And she did win, and she's your women's world champion. So what the hell do I know? But the idea seems to be triple threat. And if they're going to go that road, cool. I mean, that's fine. Better than Iyo versus Bianca. But that said, one-on-one, there is something special about one-on-one, particularly at WrestleMania. Bianca versus Ripley is a big match. Iyo versus Bianca. I'm sorry. I put this on X even. I said it doesn't have as much of a WrestleMania-ish feel to it. Bianca versus Rhea has a much bigger feel to it. Now, some people may say, well, you had another person. Doesn't that make it bigger? No, not necessarily, because you're muddying the waters a bit. It then becomes Iyo, who's there as champion, and Rhea and Bianca are trying to beat her, but it's not about Rhea versus Bianca as much as it is them trying to chase the championship. The storyline could be much deeper, in other words, if it was just Rhea versus Bianca. And you would think at some point they're going to get there. But in the post-match interview that Rhea did, I think it might have been not on Raw, was an exclusive, or I'm not really sure where. Jackie Redmond went up to her and Rhea just explained and really emoted her disappointment and how she was hoping it was going to be her and Bianca for WrestleMania and how those two paralleled each other and traveled together and just really had a connection going back to NXT. And I really felt genuine emotion from Rhea. Felt real. Felt like it was a person. She wasn't just being a wrestling character. It was a very good interview. And she felt disappointed in herself, and she let her guard down, and maybe she got too overconfident, and which is all, it's all true storyline wise. And it seemed like she had genuine disappointment. But again, I can't see Rhea just tearfully crawling into WrestleMania with no opponent. There is no other path to me other than her in a triple threat. I know it's not official. I understand that, but I just don't see another way where it's not. So assuming it is a triple threat, that should be an incredibly good match. Iyo, once again, in a championship match at WrestleMania, last year with Bayley, this year, presumably, with Bianca and Rhea Ripley, although that remains to be official. So it's all still presumption, and in this Triple H era, we can't presume anything, can we? So, but I will say, if it is just one-on-one and somehow Ripley gets out of this and does something else, and they have some other plan for her, that's going to be wildly disappointing. It's very unlikely, but it would be wildly disappointing if they put Rhea Ripley versus, I don't know, Trish Stratus. I mean, something crazy, right? That would be just inexcusable when you have Bianca versus Ripley. And I will say this, if they don't get to a one-on-one with Bianca and Ripley, when's the next time these two are going to be lined up to face one another at a WrestleMania? They put Bianca in a tag team division for how long? Seemingly half her career. Ripley is champion. Bianca wins the Rumble. It's WrestleMania season. I mean, everything aligned. And then what do we get? Bianca wins the Chamber. And then, bam, everything's good to go. And instead, we have Iyo Sky. It feels very much like Charlotte Flair interjecting in a Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey rivalry when she has no business being there and it should be one-on-one. I understand Io's incredible in the ring. I get it. And I wouldn't be so butthurt by it if they had already done one-on-one with Rhea and Bianca, and I'd seen it a couple of times over the last year or so. Instead, these two haven't crossed paths in a couple of years. That's an infinity in wrestling world, especially in a culture and a place where they just have no regard for any of the rules of their brand split. It's kind of amazing they've warded off the temptation to put these two in any kind of program before WrestleMania, and now they've got it, and now they're adding somebody presumably to it. So, am I a fan of this over one-on-one? No. But I can understand it, and I can see this being an incredibly good match just from wrestling perspective. Just from, entertainment, it's going to be incredible. So there is that. And they clearly went that road because maybe they didn't have any clue what the hell to do with Iyo for WrestleMania. It's also kind of incredible, too. Like, Iyo Sky, this is the last part I'll say. I know I'm kind of going on about this, but it's a big deal. And very rarely do they do this kind of change, this type of title change on a Raw prior to WrestleMania. I mean, it's not unprecedented, but it's not common. So they obviously have plans here with WrestleMania, 7 weeks away, 8 weeks away. No. How many weeks? Hold on. 6 or 7 weeks. I can't. 6 weeks. I'll get it right. Anyway, Iyo Sky, who last year got no fanfare until Bayley popped up. Iyo Sky didn't have much to say. Bayley got her revenge, becomes champion, and they did nothing with her. This year, Iyo comes out of left field, out of nowhere, like an RKO, and somehow wins the championship, and now she's going to be a part of the women's title match at WrestleMania. Now, excuse me, WWE clearly listening to the fans' reaction to her. She does get a hell of a reaction because while her character is not super exciting, her in-ring is next level. And that's what's keeping her afloat here. And, good for her. I'm not advocating for her to, be demoted, but anyway, I've said my piece. Let's move on. So with Monday Night Raw here in Buffalo, obviously some big things happened here. And second to the biggest thing happening, I think, was the CM Punk segment here. He said he wanted to start the show off with a bang, and it would be a lot of fun for him, and he's liable to get WWE kicked off of Netflix. And he asked where to start with the State of the Union address, and he said some people feel he's exhausted all possibilities of headlining WrestleMania. And that's when Punk looked into the camera and said, "Listen up, Dwayne, you bald fraud. You think because you're on the board of directors that you're immune from criticism. Well, you don't know who you're dealing with. You're dealing with the best in the world." And talks about The Rock's fake goosebumps, which was great. It's about time somebody mocks that. I understand that nobody can really give themselves goosebumps on command. So it's a genuine reaction that The Rock's body's having. I get it. But it also is kind of weird that it is a weird thing for him to constantly point out, even as a heel, I don't like it, or especially as a heel, I don't like it. So for the CM Punk to mock that is just great. I love that. And he's talking about the fake goosebumps. Again, they aren't fake. You can't fake goosebumps, but he's said he's never worn a fake belt and referred to himself as champion. And he said he's never been so desperate to sell his soul. Now, again, CM Punk has been heel. In fact, he turned heel prior to facing The Rock in 2012, 2013. So he has been a heel. I don't want to hear it. But again, for storyline's sake, this is just really good stuff here. And that's when he gets to John Cena and he says, "Mr. You can't see me." He said, "Oh, we can all see right through you." And he said that he can now see Cena has been selling the kids BS, except he actually said what those letters stand for. And he said that Mr. Never Give Up gave up on himself and all those kids. And he said he would see Cena down the road and that these bald frauds, he'll see both of these bald frauds and they'll, quote, make a wish that they never did. So really good stuff from Punk. Obviously, I'm butchering it. I'm not capturing the emotion because I'm just reading his text. But go back and rewatch. I've rewatched it like 3-4 times. It's so good. It's so good. CM Punk angry is the CM Punk that is at his best. When CM Punk first came back, and this was even true in AEW, if he's kind of this happy-go-lucky, self-deprecating, I'm an old man, just kind of the nice guy, he's good, but he's not great, I don't think. When he's angry and he's just off the cuff, that is the best version of Phil Brooks. So this is Phil Brooks at his peak. And when he goes toe-to-toe on the mic with The Rock or John Cena, boy, is that going to be fun. And it's going to happen. Now, there is a detour here. There is a detour because he does then start brawling with Rollins, who comes out. He ran up the stage, and he's brawling, and then he brawled some more, and then after that, they brawled. Then they took a break, and they brawled again. It just kept going. And the referees, producers, they had their annual, or rather their weekly beat down of the security guards, which is hilarious. A Holy S chant breaks out. Punk and Rollins fought at ringside, and they were eventually pulled apart heading into the commercial break. Just really good. A really hot open to the show. Really, really good. They had footage airing of people reacting to John Cena's heel turn, and Cole said that they would look back on one of the most shocking moments in WWE history. Cole did say that was the most shocking moment in WWE history, but it wasn't really. It is a massive, I'm not going to try to poo-poo it. It is a massive turn. Here's where I would pump the brakes a bit. Number one, this turn is coming with John Cena having 9 months left in his career. Okay? On a very part-time basis. So this is a big deal, but it feels like it's still something they're doing just so they can say they've done it, and if we don't do it now, we're not going to be able to do it. Rather than having a couple of years to really flesh out what a heel John Cena looks like on a semi-full-time basis. So while we're getting it, and I'm appreciative of it, and I agree with it, it's not totally unforeseen. This was floated. I don't want to hear, even Triple H said that this wasn't anything anyone said or saw coming. Well, no. Pump the brakes. I mentioned it here. Okay, I'm not taking full credit. But there are many other podcasts that did mention it. That said, it is possible John Cena aligns. I said it's not likely. I said if they're going to do it, they've got 9 months, and that's a good case for it. But I didn't think it would happen. That said, it wasn't something that we didn't just think about at all as a possibility, so that's a bunch of BS. My point, though, is with John Cena at the end of his career, it doesn't have the impact that this turn would have if this was something that happened, say, even 3/4 of the way through his full-time career. Or at the moment when The Rock came back in 2011 and they thought about turning him heel and he did it then. Bit different of a scenario and a little more impactful. Now, I would say the Undertaker's streak being broken is the single most shocking moment in WWE history. Arguably way bigger because the Undertaker had a streak of 21 WrestleManias where no one ever thought it would happen, and then the silence that fell over New Orleans. By the way, Undertaker should return there. I hope at WrestleMania 41 just for a cameo. I'm just like, hey, this place looks familiar. Did something happen here? He could make some funny. Anyway, that is a bigger moment by far. Again, John Cena turning heel is going to be fun, and it is a big moment. And it is shocking, but is it the single most shocking? No. I would argue, actually, and this did not obviously happen in WWE, but the Hulk Hogan heel turn in WCW at Bash at the Beach to form the NWO was more shocking. I would think that is actually more shocking. But anyway, it's all subjective, of course, as all pro wrestling is. All right, so more kind of tension in the quote unquote locker room or clubhouse of the Judgment Day, i.e. just a small backstage area that they just dedicate to the Judgment Day. And then we get Alicia Taylor introducing Otis. Gunther said Otis belongs in the same people pleaser category as Jey Uso and doesn't belong in his sacred ring. And Gunther said the people actually pity Otis. And he said that Otis is as strong as an ox and that some people call him a freak of nature, but he sees him as just a freak. And he asked Otis if he looked in the mirror this morning. Gunther said he did and spoke about having the World Heavyweight Championship belt, while Otis can't find a belt big enough to fit him. And he said that Otis could be great if he had a little self-respect, which he said he's going to teach him right now. So Gunther boots Otis in the face. The referee rewarded him for just a total moron and started the match. You allow the heel to get an advantage, and then you're like, oh, okay, ring the bell. Now I know we've seen this 100 times, but it's something that you don't really think about, It's just like, okay, the second they have physical contact, ring the bell. It's like, no, actually, you should have both men starting in neutral positions on opposite ends of the opposite quarters of the ring, and then you ring the bell. Instead, you are essentially rewarding the guy for bad behavior, but that's kind of done all the time. All right, so anyway, this match lasted about 10 minutes in a non-title match with Gunther beating Otis. And it went about as good as it could be expected, I think, for an Otis-Gunther matchup. Slower, methodical, helping put over Otis a little bit, but really about Gunther. And Gunther ends up winning. as he should, because he's about to main event, presumably, although not locked in, night one with Jey Uso for the World Championship. And this match did what it needed to do. Gunther then tried to attack Otis after the match, and he power bombs Akira Tozawa, and he's about to look like power bomb Otis on Akira Tozawa, and that's when Jey Uso comes out and makes the save, and yeah, so it again, it didn't really move anything forward for Otis or either Gunther or Jey. It's kind of just a steer the course type of night. And you're going to have a couple of those moving into WrestleMania itself because there's a lot of TV to go. They've got a lot of TV to go. I think what would help this program, to be quite frank with you, is a sit-down interview. I think that's what this needs, at least in the next 3 to 4 weeks, because how many times do you need sneak attacks, brawls, pull-apart brawls? Lord knows we've seen a million of those over the last several months from the men and the women. So I think what would really help is a sit-down interview to hear, especially from Jay's side, what motivates him. Get the fans to rally a little bit more behind him beyond Yeet. Okay? There's got to be more beyond Yeet for him. Very over. Well worth the copyright loyalties that they're paying for that. But they need more. I think I need more to get behind Jay. Put some nice video packages together for him and for Gunther too. But a sit-down interview, I keep going back to the Jim Ross style interview in the locker room with him and The Rock and Stone Cold right before WrestleMania 17. That is still one of the most memorable promos and interview segments of all time. Something equivalent to that, if whatever the 2025 version of that looks like, minus Jim Ross, minus The Rock, minus Stone Cold, of course. But I think that you're going to have something a little bit to that effect, and you're going to need that because you can't do pull-apart brawls and sneak attacks every week. All right. It also concerns me, while I'm on it, that Gunther and Jey Uso is taking a massive backseat right now. Not that the fans aren't into it, but it feels like, and maybe it's because Jey Uso's simply not as big of a star as we're used to seeing for a WrestleMania card, at least in a world title match situation. I mean, no disrespect to Jey, it just is what it is. The fans don't seem to be, at least from, I don't know, since I am one, as excited as you ought to be or should be feeling at this point for a babyface to overcome the heel in a world title situation at WrestleMania. It feels like I should be more excited, or I should have more attention, drawn to it. Something's missing. Something's missing from it. And I think a lot of it is just time dedicated to it, position on the show. Everything seems to be focused now around The Rock and Cody and now the John Cena heel turn. Can't believe I'm saying that. And, everything around that, and, Randy Orton and KO, which, boy, that's going to be great. And where the hell's Roman Reigns and all that. So there needs to be more attention focused on that. Again, I know that a lot of people are focused on the bigger storylines and The Rock and all that, and rightfully so, but I think at least a couple of Raws need to have the Jay Gunther story woven as the focal point throughout the show. Not that it needs to be talked about from beginning to end, but maybe it starts the show. It leads to a big main event you can look forward to at the end of the night. Maybe Jey Uso and Partner X versus Gunther and Partner X, Kaiser, whoever. And they get some in-ring time. That can be more towards the end of the build here towards WrestleMania. But that's what I think it needs, is more attention. It's not that Gunther's not doing a good job, or even Jay, or that the fans aren't really into this, but it needs more attention, more minutes on the screen. Alrighty, so we then have Kathy Kelly asking AJ Styles about about Cena and Cody. Styles said he didn't see it coming and expressed surprise over Cena selling out, and that's when Karrion Kross grabbed Styles from behind and said it wasn't as surprising if you really think about it. And Kross spoke about a new generation not showing enough respect and mentioned Logan Paul as an example. Styles said he's not Cena and said maybe the WWE Universe needs a reminder of who he is. And Styles said maybe he'd challenge Logan Paul to a match on next week's Raw in MSG, Ooh, it's going to be big Raw. Styles said that as far as Cross playing the devil on his shoulder, God knows my evil ways. And Cross said that was easy and smiled. So nice to see Karrion Kross at least still on TV. That's a good thing. I love Karrion Kross. I want to see more of him. There's something there that I feel like they're trying to capitalize, and he is too. But they haven't quite found the right ingredients yet. But the main ingredients are there. But they haven't put together the meal yet. For a weird food analogy. All right, Lyra Valkyria versus Ivy Nile for the Women's IC Championship. Match was 9.5 minutes, with Lyra taking out Ivy Nile to retain the IC Championship. The finish was Nile applying an ankle lock. Valkyria cried out in agony before reaching the bottom rope, which broke the hold. Nile suplexed Valkyria, who then dodged a big boot in the corner, and then Valkyria hit the backbreaker and then the Nightwing for the victory. Straightforward match. Solid match. Memorable? No. Nice that they're giving the Intercontinental Championship some attention? Yes. I think this is something that needs to happen more consistently. No doubt. Like a lot of things. Consistency. In the eyes of fans. On a weekly basis. Not that every single week needs to be an Intercontinental Championship match, but at least maybe spoken about. Qualifiers. Something along those lines. So, we then have Rollins spot CM Punk backstage, and they went after each other again. Supposedly, security pulled them apart again as Adam Pearce did his weekly blow a gasket. And Deion Dawkins of the Buffalo Bills was in the crowd. And then Pearce told Rollins outside the venue that he was putting him in a hell of a position. Rollins told Pearce to choose or he'll take out Punk before WrestleMania like he did Roman Reigns. And Pearce booked Rollins versus Punk in a steel cage match for next week's Raw at Madison Square Garden. Now this screams Roman Reigns' return. This is clearly not going to be Rollins versus Punk heading into WrestleMania, I don't think. Although you could argue Rollins versus Punk versus Roman at WrestleMania, and that was rumored for a while. That rumor's been going around for a while in this triple threat. Now, if it indeed becomes a triple threat, as a lot of these decisions, a lot of these rumors seem to be landing on triple threat, a lot of these matches, which is weird this year. But if we have Roman Reigns involved in this triple threat, I mean, that's a lot of big names in a big match. But what's on the line? What are these three men fighting over? Pride? I don't need a championship match, but again, I can't remember or recall a triple threat match on a PLE, especially at WrestleMania, where nothing was on the line other than pretty much bragging rights and pride. So I don't know if that is indeed the plan. If Roman returns next week, tries to go after Rollins, Punk and Roman have some kind of altercation. They start brawling. It's a three-way melee. So that's also an open-ended discussion to have. Is if Roman returns next week, attacks Rollins, and maybe it's Rollins versus Reigns at WrestleMania, which I totally hope happens, and it's a one-on-one. You see a theme here where WWE seems to be trending triple threat and I'm trending one-on-one. Then that leaves Punk open. And if it leaves Punk open, that's maybe where he could cash in his favor. No better time to cash in your favor than at WrestleMania. And you're not going to need to cash in a favor for a meaningless triple threat. So, all right. We had Kaiser in the ring, demanding all the crowd's attention. He said he took back what the attention that Penta had been getting and told the fans to boo all they want, but if they're honest with themselves, they would admit he's everything he says he is and a future world champion. He said that if Penta thinks they have unfinished business, he should reconsider because what Cena did to Cody was nothing compared to what he's prepared to do to him. And yeah, I mean, of course, pretty much empty threats. And then we have Kathy Kelly congratulate Bianca Belair on her Chamber win. And then we have looked like Natalya and Maxine Dupree having a conversation. Belair said she feels guilty about what happened with Jade and Naomi, but she's equally proud of what she accomplished. Belair said that regardless of who wins the match between Rhea and Iyo, you can't spell WrestleMania. Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess we can't spell WrestleMania without EST. I guess anything with the 3 letters of EST, she's going to find a way to put that in. Bianca, again, I'm advocating for her in a one-on-one match. I would seriously say that the women right now are in a better position to argue for the night 1 main event than Jay and Gunther. That's as of this moment. And that's because the women in that regard seem to be hotter. Jay and Gunther is hot, but it's missing something. I don't know. Like I mentioned earlier, there's that attention and time dedicated to it. I think that's simply missing. So then we have footage of Chad Gable searching for the person who's going to help him with Lucha Libre. He found a man and asked if he was the one to help him. Beat a bunch of luchadors. The man told Gable he can't fight and he does not understand what he must become. Lucha, and Gable gave the man cash for a box. The man told Gable he had now had the power beyond his understanding. Gable opened the box and looked pleased. And then we get the War Raiders versus Julius Creed and Brutus Creed for the World Tag Team titles. Nearly a 12-minute match with the War Raiders winning here and retaining the World Tag titles. Boy, we get 3 title matches on this show. Whatever happened to just PLEs being the ones to carry those championship matches? I know we're in a different world. I'm the old guy now screaming into the void. And I don't know. I'm the old timer, I guess, in terms of just, I appreciated championship matches much more when they were on PLEs. They felt much more special. Now they're giving out like candy. It just happens on a weekly basis. In fact, we got 3, like I said, 3 of them last night. I know that gets a lot of fans excited. Oh, cool. Isn't that cool? There's no such thing as delayed gratification anymore. Everybody wants everything right now, which is a shame. But it's the world we live in. I know that no one's listening. I mean, especially in WWE Creative. Oh, deal with it. It brings, whatever. I know it's just a different product. I know that. So, the War Raiders here. This was a good match. A little bit sloppy at the end with the, what was it? Julius or Brutus? I can't remember who hit that splash. It just looked bad. It looked bad, but it was fine for what it was. It was the 450 splash. That's what it was. It was bad. But other than that, just, I thought, a very solid match. These two teams worked their ass off. Right call here, I think, for the War Raiders to continue to hold those tag titles. That also seems to be set up for a multi-team elimination matchup at WrestleMania. So we got then highlights of Kevin and Sammy. We got video promo air with Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wilde, and Cruz del Toro. And that's when Rey Mysterio joined them and said New Day should have finished what they started. Then we had Finn Balor in the ring and addressed Braun Breaker. He was interviewed on the front steps, who was being interviewed on the front steps of the concourse by Jackie Redmond. Balor said the only reason Breaker is still IC champ is because Judgment Day has allowed it. And Breaker said it's because he's a dog. And Balor said he'd choose up rookies like Breaker. And Balor said he'll put Breaker down when they meet. And then Breaker headed down the steps, hopped to ringside. Carlito tried to attack Breaker. He got quickly dismantled. And then Dom Mysterio dove at Breaker. He got overhead belly-to-belly suplexed on the floor. That's when he got in the ring with Balor. A quick back and forth. Breaker went for the spear, but Dom pulled Balor to safety. So good. I mean, building to Breaker versus Balor, with Breaker suddenly, I guess he's just over the last several weeks just organically morphed into a babyface, which is fine. I think this matchup's going to be fun, and it could end up being Finn winning here. Maybe bringing out the Demon to face Breaker. We'll see. But the Demon is a babyface character. Kind of an oxymoron there. But, it's been a fan favorite. I don't know if that's what he'll do here. I don't think so because he's a heel. But could it end up with Balor splitting from the Judgment Day? Maybe. They seem to be headed that way. Even though last night we had Dom save Balor from a spear. All right, Cole then said Cena had over 500 million social media views with the Cena turn, which is just, that's incredible. That's incredible. Really is. And then the whole F himself, as you'd imagine, a lot of highlights here. And then we had, let's see, Jay saying he hears every week that he can't do it, and Gunther's doubting him. Again, it's rinse and repeat here with Jay. That's what I'm saying. Nothing wrong with his message. Saying people are doubting him. And, he said it did bother him a little bit, and said he's crashing out at WrestleMania, and that Gunther just woke up a beast. And there's something, again, attention time and just a little more depth to this. A little more, I gave you my ideas earlier with interviews and sit-down interviews and promos. That's what this needs. All right. So then we have Ripley versus Iyo Sky for the Women's World Championship. Nearly 20 minutes. Hell of a long match for the women, but great. You had Bianca at ringside, and then just an incredible turn here of events with Iyo Sky winning. Fans couldn't believe it. They didn't boo it. They cheered because, hey, when you're in attendance for a title change, even though they happen more often today than ever, it still is a special thing because you're in attendance. So you have that kind of instinct to cheer, even if after after things settle, you're like, wait, why did I cheer for that? But it's just the excitement of the moment. And people did cheer for Iyo. They didn't boo anything. But we'll see if this turns out to be a smart move by WWE, or if they somehow go back to Rhea versus Bianca. That's the match. That's the biggest possible match. I don't think adding Iyo makes it bigger. There's something special about one-on-one. But I talked about that for like 15 minutes to open the show, so I won't do it again. So anyway, I thought it was a good show, a B show, BB+, a good Monday Night Raw. One that followed it up very nicely from the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber. It followed up very nicely, leading us into WrestleMania season even further. A lot more to go, no doubt about it. We've got several. Let me count the weeks here. Let me give you the weeks. I got my calendar out now, so I'm not going to just guess. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more weeks of television. And if you're doing some pretty crazy math, that means we have 12, count them, 12 shows between Raw and SmackDown. And if you want to go even further, you could say with Raw being, what's Raw these days? Is it like 2.5 hours? It's about 2.5 hours. So that's about 15 hours of Raw to go. And you have SmackDown 3 hours. So we have, again, give or take an hour or two, 33 hours of television. Just Raw and SmackDown. That's not counting NXT. If you watch Main Event, if you watch Speed, or if you watch Evolve, or if you watch, all the other events. That's just your main roster total television count. 33 hours of television left. Think about that. I mean, that's a day and a half nearly of just sitting and staring at a television screen if you were to just condense it. That's a lot of television to go. A lot of storyline progression. Next week, with Raw being at Madison Square Garden, I think you can pretty much take it to the bank. There's going to be a massive return, something promoted maybe during the week here for next week, with maybe Cody Rhodes making an appearance. I would think Roman Reigns, again, my guess, that he makes his presence known during that steel cage match with Rollins and Punk. So Roman could be coming back. perhaps Sammy comes out and has his first words since, the Kevin Owens just masterpiece they put together at the Elimination Chamber. There's a lot that could be done here. You could even have a special appearance on The Rock. I mean, Madison Square Garden is Madison Square effing Garden. So I would not be surprised. I'm surprised it didn't already put something on the cards, something, promoting the hell out of it on their social media, or saying The Rock and Cena are making their first, or Cena at least is making his first appearance since turning, or Cody's going to have his first words. And they've got to have something like that for Madison Square Garden. If not, I mean, that would be kind of a big disappointment given the platform that Madison Square Garden is and the things that have happened there and what they usually like to do there. But big Raw coming next week just because of the place that they're going to be. So that'll do it for my Monday Night Raw review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be back on Friday for your mailbag. Interested to hear your reactions to, of course, the Elimination Chamber event and, all the reviews and your predictions moving forward as things have really ramped up. Just think about a week ago how a lot of us felt it wasn't really like WrestleMania season. Felt kind of ho-hum. It seems like a lot of times they're phoning it in, or it doesn't seem like there's a lot of star power this year. Boy, is that changed or what? Yeah. And one last thing, and I know I mentioned this on my reaction to the Elimination Chamber. This better lead. Now, I know Cody Rhodes is not going to be at a tag team match at WrestleMania, so it's not going to be, Rock and Cena versus Cody and somebody else, because Cody's a champion and he has a match already with John Cena for the championship, the WWE Undisputed Championship. But Cody, I thought it could be Roman to help him, and it still could be Roman to help him. And maybe Roman doesn't make his presence known with Rollins, although Rollins was the last one to attack him, so it wouldn't make much sense if he doesn't attack Rollins next week. So that's the more likely scenario. But what if Cody is helped by Roman? Cody did help him at Survivor Series. Remember? Was it a Cody? No, it was Punk. Or was it? I got to get the damn roster straight. I got to look at the damn. Hold on. Bear with me, guys. So it was Survivor Series War Games. Was Cody in that match with Roman? I think he was. Survivor Series War Games 2020. I'm embarrassing myself. I know that. But War Games feels like a million years ago. And let's take a look here. No, I was wrong. I'm totally wrong. I'm glad I checked. I was thinking Punk and Cody were in that, but no, Cody was not even on the event. There was just Roman, the Usos, Sammy, and Punk versus okay. Yeah, so anyway, but he did help Roman at one point fend off Solo. That's what I'm thinking of. So, you could have some logic there for Roman to come back and help Cody against John Cena. But then there's the issue of The Rock, and maybe that's how we get Rock and Roman is, because now Roman has to choose what to do here. And that's how you maybe get to finally Rock Roman, is Roman helping Cody. Again, that's not going to be a WrestleMania match because Cody's not going to be at a tag team match unless he's doing double duty, again, which I would advise against. But more importantly, and I mention this again, I'll mention it until it happens because I'm going to manifest it in the universe. You can't tell me this is not leading to a Stone Cold Steve Austin moment at WrestleMania 41. This has to. Even more than last year. There's been a lot of hints. If The Rock is truly doing all this storytelling and we're all missing it with holding up the 3 at the Bad Blood event and everyone said, and he acknowledged it, well, that didn't mean anything. And which, again, it's impossible to prove these things that he does this stuff and then we get just either bored by it or confused by it, or it really means nothing and there's no follow-up. And then later on he can say, well, no, there was. It's easy because we can't prove it. You could have just totally fallen off, told backstage that you're not interested, and then come back 4 months later and be like, oh, well, that actually meant something. We had plans all along. Well, we don't know that backstage. As fans, we only know what we see on screen. But then, so anyway, he tries to pull all this stuff together and pretend they're all tied together, and they might be loosely. I have my doubts. My point is that even more than last year, Stone Cold Steve Austin needs to come out, and he needs to deliver a couple of stunners, particularly to The Rock. It has to happen to help Cody Rhodes. Because The Rock, if he's not involved in a match at WrestleMania, it doesn't look like he's going to be. That if he comes out, he has some goons out there to try to help John Cena win. Maybe Cody has some help, but that help is, overwhelmed by however many people The Rock is putting out there. And then The Rock himself comes out to try to screw Cody. It looks like he's about to, and here comes Stone Cold Steve Austin as like his final line of defense. Stuns The Rock. Place goes crazy. Crossroads on Cena. 1, 2, 3. Game over. That's how I'd book this thing. Right? Cody gets beat down every week. It seems like Cody might have helped. Maybe even Randy Orton after he's done with KO. Maybe helps him. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Cody has some help from Jimmy Uso or something to kind of fend off whatever goons that The Rock brings on. And apparently there's supposed to be one more member. All these hand signals and things that he's doing are supposed to mean 3 guys. Then there's 2 guys. No, we've got 1. I get it. I don't have time to decode this stuff. But fine. If The Rock brings on one more person, then you're going to have Cody get beat down week after week. And that's fine. Because it could lead to Cody getting a little help, and then the biggest help of all with Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's how I'd book it. Where just when you think, oh my God, all of his friends, everybody who's been helping him the last 6 weeks aren't there. What's he going to do? Here comes The Rock. But here comes Austin. That's my fantasy scenario. Because last year we got screwed out of Austin and we got The Undertaker. And I sound like a spoiled fan, but Austin would have made a million more times more sense than The Undertaker did. But anyway, I'll leave it at that because I could go down this road and nitpick this whole, and book it myself over the next 6 weeks and at WrestleMania specifically. But I'll leave it there. If you guys want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is a good time to do it now. You get a 7-day free trial. You get access to a Discord server that you can chat with our fans anytime you want during any event. You can also get an ad-free experience on Apple Podcasts. If you want to join us there, there's an ad-free button. Click it. Do it now. All right. Or you just leave us a 5-star rating. That's cool too. Thank you everybody for listening. As always, take care. We'll chat next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.